अब सीधे आपको हैदराबाद लिए चलते हैं, जहां पर ग्लोबल एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप समिट 2017 में सिनेमा के भविष्य, फ्यूचर ऑफ सिनेमा पर हो रही सबसे बड़ी चर्चा। सेशन को मॉडरेट कर रहे हैं राज्यसभा सांसद सुभाष और उनके साथ मंच पर जानी मानी एक्ट्रेस अदिति राव हैदरी है, एक्टर रामचरण तेजा है और नेक्स्ट पेज प्रोडक्शन के सीईओ ऑन ए रेके स्टेफनी।
My friend, she became friend yesterday, is Stephanie from Nollywood. She is a director, producer, as well as actress. She has been acting in not only Nollywood, but also in Hollywood. Wow. And I have beautiful young lady, Aditi Rao Hydari. She is born in this beautiful city. And after the show, you can probably ask her where to go in Hyderabad and enjoy yourself. At the same time, she's been in the creative world as an actress in Hindi cinema, Bollywood, as well as in southern India, in Telugu and other South Indian languages. So the way, friends, I have thought of this session is that if each one of you will make comment of 2 minutes, and then I will probably ask you questions, and then we will leave the audience to ask some questions. Is that okay with us? Okay. So why don't we start with Ronnie, the senior most?
Subhash, of the conference, we should let the ladies start, right?
Okay. Okay. Why don't Aditi? Why don't you make some comments?
Firstly, good morning. I don't know if my mic is working. Am I audible? I tend to be soft. Okay. I'm actually really excited to be here, more so because in the last year or so, I've been acting for about 7 years now. 6, 7 years. And in the last year and a half or so, I've realized that there have been some huge changes, because as an actor in the last year and a half or so, I found that suddenly there was a kind of, I wouldn't call it a dry spell, but suddenly I felt like there was a churning and everything was changing around me. And I was like, what's going on? And then I started asking questions. Because I think when you first start in the industry, you're still trying to find your space, you're still trying to find your feet, you're still trying to understand what it is that you want to do. And I tend to be very idealistic. So I believe in this whole thing of art, and I'm part of the whole artistic world, and we're creating cinema and movies that live beyond our times. But then there's this whole economic aspect of it. And in India now, there's this huge digital influx that has happened, and I couldn't understand what it was all about and why there were these changes, why there were fewer films getting made, or why films on either very, very large scales or very, very small films were getting made, and this whole in-between film had dried up. So these were the questions that I was asking, and I'm actually very happy to be here today because I'm going to get to hear a lot from people who, Ronnie, Subhash sir and Stephanie, who are producers. I'm not a producer, I'm an actor. So very often I say, as an actor, I feel very dependent on what is given to me or what is put in front of me or the directors that come to me, etc. But having said that, I'm happy to say that as an actor of the new generation, I'm also empowered with the choices that I make, and there are a lot of choices in front of me. And there's a lot of great cinema being made today. But I feel that cinema, I feel that cinema needs more of an outlet. So there are many things that I've been hearing about. In fact, I spoke to Sameer Nair recently, and he was talking about the fact of why there is more digital stuff, less theatrical releases. Is because in India there are very, very few theatres. There are 10,000 theatres for a population of 1.2 billion or something like that.
Yeah,
which just means that there are not enough theatres for people to go to. And I know that our country is completely movie crazy, but there are not enough theatres to go to, especially in the smaller towns. So there are all these things. Having said that, there is also this other thing where India is such a huge and diverse country, and there are so many different languages and cultures. And I've been asked this question very recently because I worked with a legendary filmmaker called Mani Ratnam recently, and soon after that I worked with another very well-known filmmaker called Sanjay Leela Bansali, and so I was one of the lucky few who went from that set to this set. And I was asked this question non-stop about what is the difference, but I actually feel that filmmaking is really about the the vision of the director, and it's not about geographical boundaries and language and caste and religion and all of the above. It's really about the vision of that filmmaker and the story and feelings really don't have language. And I'm very blessed that I'm getting this opportunity to work in these different industries, though primarily I do work in Hindi, but I do put in that extra effort because I want to work with these diverse filmmakers who have, you know, these, who have different voices, who have a different viewpoint, who have a different perspective. It also allows me to explore my own country, to explore various cultures within my country. And the more that I work like this, the more that I begin to understand about how it is being a girl working in this film industry, how it is, how cinema in theaters are somehow under some kind of, I won't like to use the word threat, but there is some kind of threat.
No. But I don't think cinema is under threat.
No, it's not. And I actually feel that for the entertainment industry to flourish, cinema goers need that experience, and people who want to sit on their phones and watch something need that experience, and it has to come together, and we have to find a way for both to work. One can't kill the other. So it has to be together, and for me, cinema is magic. So somehow I feel like my generation, we have to make sure that we are putting out content, that we are bringing viewers into the theater. So
no, that is true. Aditi, when we started the television in India, there used to be only one film on television per week, and if Doordarshan, the national broadcaster, wanted to put a second film, the minister had to ask to the Prime Minister whether to put second film or not.
Really?
Yes, that was the case, and I am witness to it. And when we started the first private television station, the film industry felt that I'm going to close down the film industry by showing movies on television. But contrary happened. So now the satellite television contributes almost 50% of the movie's budgets, or maybe more than that. So anyway, Stephanie, let's understand how is it in your world. What do you feel, and what are your opening comments?
I'm so happy to be here. My name is Stephanie Linus. I'm a filmmaker and an actress from Nollywood, and I don't so much influence from Bollywood. Yeah, actually, Bollywood influenced me into going into acting. Because I remember watching the Bollywood movie, and I'll go behind the house and I'm dancing and all of that. I just knew that this was what I was going to do. And the Nigerian movie industry exploded in the late 90s, and we created this industry for ourselves. And over time, we've seen the different challenges that has faced us. You had cinemas at the point where I started my career, we didn't have cinema culture at all. So it was just direct to DVDs, and people were watching those films in their homes. And and we've seen the influx of the cable network that came in, just like you came in, and got the Nigerian content and put it out, for a larger number of people to see it. So there's been a lot of different progress, and then digitalization technology sweeps in. And all we filmmakers are just trying to figure out how do we not get extinct? How do we keep up with the time and use the tool? Because those tools in front of us, we can't ignore them. We just need to make sure that it works for us. But the good thing about this time is that content is still king. So no matter how the technology goes, you as a creative person, if you're very creative, your content, you just have to use those technologies as a medium to reach your public. And it's also a wonderful thing that is happening this period with this conference, in the sense that they're also putting a lot of recognition of the women in the industry and what we're doing. And in my industry, women are doing a lot. I know when, as an actor, I didn't have, you were saying, you don't have a lot of control of what goes, your final image. And that's actually what inspired me to go behind the scene, because I'm like, oh, why did they leave my face like that? Why didn't they edit it like that? So instead of me complaining, let me go behind the scene and see if I'll be able to do this. And that's what I was able to do, go behind the scene, direct, and then show the representation of how I feel I should be represented also as a woman, also to have control of my narrative and everything. And that has also inspired a lot of female filmmakers to go into producing, to go into directing, to just say, okay, I just will not only be an actress, that I can also be much more. So it's an interesting time that we are. I'm not going to say much, because there's a lot of questions. It's an interesting time that we're in, and we're also looking at how we're all going to collaborate with one another, because the world is becoming very global. So, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
I'll ask you a few more questions on the women involvement. But Indian cinema may have very little women involved as a director-producer. But Ronnie, your comments.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. Nice to be here. Maybe if I can just summarize in 2 minutes, about 16 years ago when we were running broadcast channels, I felt the need that we needed to get into movies, because that's how you can build a B2C brand. And our first 5 movies were a complete disaster. Second, I was the outsider. And I think for a lot of people here, and this is an entrepreneur conference, to understand when you're an outsider, how does it feel to enter a sector or an industry, I think it should feel fine. Because a lot of people ask the question, but if I'm an outsider in a segment, I don't have domain knowledge. I don't think we had, and we didn't have an incestuous relationship. So I think we took the path less trodden, the more difficult path, a lot of learning from our 5 disaster failures that we started with. And then a movie happened called Rang De Basanti, which for us was a formula set for disaster. But we took that on because we thought we knew trends. And therefore that comes to the other thing. This sector is not any different from many sectors, because at the end of the day, if you can anticipate trends, you can anticipate storytelling, and you can tell it in a very different manner. So cut to 65 movies later, and 10 years later, I exited the space and sold the company to Disney.
And very successfully. Yes.
And then I had a 5-year non-compete. And then in the last 1 year, I've been observing the entire cinema space and storytelling space in India and everywhere else. And I think what has changed, and what changed maybe when we started a movie like Rang De Basanti, was that today, of course, we all go to the movies to get entertained, to get enthralled. But primarily, there's a sense of realism, a sense of context to our storytelling that has emerged over the last 1 to 2 years. So to me, I felt very encouraged to look at this and talk about what I would call 3 brandings. Because one, stories that must be told. And I think that's the least service category in cinema today. Because, we don't have role models in this country. We need much more role models for the younger generation than we should have. And those movies can play such a big and important role in role models. And to me, those are the stories that must be told. Then there are the stories that you would love to tell. For example, I'm very passionate about a sport called Kabaddi, and I backed it in the early days. And so my first thing was I want to make a movie on Kabaddi, because if I can take that and make it even more evangelized. This conference evangelizes entrepreneurship. Movies can evangelize role models and do so much in terms of impact. And then there's the stories that we all go to the movies for. So I think that's the creative edge of why I think I want to start telling stories again. And if I can just interject in the economics of what has happened today, and I think Aditi brought up digital and television. Look, I think this is, as Subhash said, this is an era that will always coexist. Every time, from the time radio started till television started till big screen started, there'll always be the concept of a threat. And it's mostly an and not an or.
Yeah.
The big challenge in India versus everywhere else is, I think, our windows for releasing a movie to other platforms has shrunk drastically. And that is something we need to maybe watch out for, because if an audience can feel I can watch this in 6 weeks on another platform, your inertia to go to a movie theater is less and less.
Yes.
And that, I think, is the one foundation that is right now sliding horizontally, and we need to sort of debate that.
That's great. Aditi, when you made a comment that as an actress, you do not have much control over the creative work that is left to the director, and you also rightly commented that either there are movies which are made with very, very high budgets, and then there are very low budget movies with the content which is the stories, as Ronnie just said. And those films are not made with the A-grade actors and actresses. So they are very low budget films. So my question to you are twofold. One is that would you like to work more with the very A-class heroes and blockbuster films, or would you like to work in a storytelling format, what Ronnie just said?
So I'll tell you very honestly, when I started, I do not belong to the film industry. I was not born in Bombay. I do not have relatives who are from the film industry. And the film industry can be quite dynastic. I'm not saying that like I'm cribbing, but I'm saying that as a fact. And so when I came in here, at the beginning, I was confused. I was given a lot of advice. I was told to do various things, which I did. And somewhere along the way, I got this, you know how it's like you taste blood. And you work with these amazing filmmakers, directors, and the kind of challenge that they pose in front of you is, I can't even describe it. And it's very addictive. And that's when I realized that, actually, to me, nothing matters. I mean, of course, it's very important who you're working with because you want to get along with them, you want to have fun while shooting. All that is there. But I think primarily the most important thing over there when you are filming is your story, is your script, and is your director. Because the director, it's his vision or her vision. And as an actor, you breathe life into that vision. So it's really about the director. And I will always just chase that. I will chase the director, and usually a director will have an amazing team and will have an amazing script, usually. The reason I said you don't have creative control is also from my earlier years when I came in. When, I remember even, and I was naive and I was, I really didn't know, but I remember saying things instinctively, like, I don't think we should do this like this. And I was always told, you're really young, you don't know anything. We've been in the industry for whatever, 25 years or 30 years, and you don't know anything. So I'd be like, okay. And very often, like today, those people come and tell me, you were right, but you were such a little thing that we didn't listen to you. Somewhere I feel, I wish that, you could say things and it could be taken at face value rather than it become about seniority and hierarchy. So that's what I meant, in terms of positions and hierarchy. Okay. So somewhere I think that is changing, of course, from 6-7 years ago that has changed. But I feel like as a producer, you do have complete control. And I'm saying this knowing very well that I don't think I want to be a producer. I'm too much of a drama queen. I like to be in front of the camera. If somebody were to put me behind the camera, I'd feel claustrophobia, and I don't know if I'd be able to do anything.
Yeah, very honest answer.
But somewhere I want to also be able to say stuff which now I can. I now can. I work with people who do, who give me a voice, who listen to me regardless of how new I may be to be, relatively new I may be to be to the field.
Good, good. Stephanie, art has actually no language.
Of course.
And cultural barriers, and this we have discussed since yesterday. Do you feel kind of isolated when you are working in Nollywood and not in Hollywood or in Bollywood or our Indian industry or mainstream cinema? What would you say? Do you find cultural difficulties in expressing to the global audiences?
Well, I wouldn't say I feel isolated, because I think each industry just sprung up trying to create a void, trying to see their own representation of themselves. And I think that's why Bollywood came, Nollywood came, like, oh, I need to see my own experience. But the good thing about technology now is that it has made the world a global village. I mean, I have access to people in different countries just sitting where I am. And the good thing that arts can do and film can do is also to continue to break barriers. I was telling you that there is need for these industries to, synergize, to come together and collaborate and do more work. I was giving you an instance, like, every day we interact with each other. You can come to Nigeria and do a business in Nigeria. I can come to India and do a business. Sometimes when you put films where people can understand each other more, because I've had a situation where you might come into my country and you're doing this the same way. It is right, but I just don't understand it, and you don't understand the way I do things. And the way we can both understand each other is when we as creative people find a way to create films or bring those cultures together so that we understand the little nuances that we have, so that, there will be less fiction in the world. And I think that's the role that the arts play. So I don't think I'm being in a box, but I think we all had our boxes, but it's not for us to explode and sort of like intertwine and come together. So the world becomes a better place, I think. Yeah. So, and that's what we should be doing with our arts. So we are open to collaborations.
Why not?
With Bollywood.
We should certainly do that.
Yeah.
And especially these days when languages, I mean, there are cases in India when a Hollywood film has done better than an Indian cinema.
Yes.
So, Ronnie, you are very well experienced and you know the entire industry, not only Bollywood but also Southern film cinema. Why we haven't seen many women directors or women producers, so to speak, in our cinema industry?
Yeah, I can't speak for women producers, but I think the key would be women directors, because if we can get women directors. And I think that is a little bit because of what Aditi said, that the male-female box office ratio and weightage has just been dynastically and hereditary-wise, the perception is a bit skewed. And I think that can change.
Skewed in favor of the...
skewed in favor of men, I presume.
Men in the cinema.
Yes, in some form. And I think that is wrong, because you have got now things that are extending in a completely different manner. But the pay scale somewhere, like anything else, like in professional jobs, has been skewed. There's no running away from that. But today, if you look at that ecosystem is changing slowly, slowly. That 20% ratio will go at some stage to 30% and 40%. I think it's also about the tenure and the commitment of what you want to do, because a one-off movie director doesn't make an overall brand, and therefore continuity and a 20-year commitment to the space is also one. Now, you may have women directors that may go in and out of something, but I think people who've decided to make this their career path and stayed the course. The other part, I think, is I've found that this is an industry with more failures than successes.
Yeah.
Which means you need much more resilience, much more faith in yourself.
But now people are believing that the failure teaches you much more than the successes.
Exactly.
And you are the example of that.
But, which is why
you didn't stop at when you had 5 failures in the beginning. Yeah. You continued.
Yeah, because to me it was, I don't have a choice and I want to do this for the long term.
But it's so true, it is about conviction.
Yeah. So if you can stay the course, I think. And my communication and message to women directors would be, just stay the course, because if you stick in there and dig your heels in, there is an opportunity. Let's be very clear, women are much more sensitive, have a lot more empathy.
Yeah, that's why I wonder why we don't have many women directors.
Yes. Because it's a lot of work also. You know, it's easy for you to bring the money, produce, but as a director, you're going to be in the picture. Like in every scene, you're there, you're going to see it with there. So it's also a lot of work.
It's a deep level of commitment with an exclusion of almost everything else.
So you're giving message to this conference that we must invite more women as directors and creative people.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
If I'm doing 6 movies right now, 2 out of the 6 are female directors. Hopefully a third can come.
Very good. Wonderful. So, of course, by the time we finish, I guess we will have a house full.
I also want to say that at least up in Bombay, they use this term, heroine-oriented women director, but we never say male director.
Yeah.
It's director, film. The film happens to be about a girl or a boy or an elderly man or a woman or a dog or a cat or whatever. So the moment those distinctions go, I think somewhere we'll be on the same, where we deal with it as one thing, not heroine-oriented, female director. Well, I know this is the time to fight for it, but somewhere it has to become a story.
I think the women also, I think the women should also stop. I think the women should stop looking for labels, or maybe they use it. I'm a female director, because sometimes I've had an interview where people interviewed me. Oh, do you directed your movie as a female? I'm like, I don't think that way. So I think women should stop thinking that I have to do this, or I'm a woman, let me do this because I want to show the man. I say, I look at myself, do I have the talent to do this? I do. Can I do it? I go ahead and do it, and I don't look at any other barriers. And I think people respect you more if you if you do that and your work speaks for yourself and it is good, do you also gain that respect? I'm also encourage a lot of other women who feel that they can do it, but sometimes, like, you were saying about here in Nollywood, there are even more women producing and doing more stuff, leading the box office and in Nigeria also.
Well, as you rightly said, not as a challenge or anything, but I believe man is incomplete without women, and so is woman.
Yes.
So we are kind of made for each other. We are complete with each other. So anyway, coming to technology now, do you use a lot of technology?
Yes, we do. Technology has helped a lot of filmmakers, especially from my world.
So with this VFX and artificial intelligence, then augmented reality coming into the cinema, and all these digital prints are being released. Mm-hmm. No more we use the films as a material for distribution. Yeah. So all digital cameras and 8K high-end cameras, etc. Does it reduce the cost of movie production as a producer, because you have been producing films?
Yeah, of course. I mean, technology has made movie making very cheap. It's made a lot of people also to think that they can be filmmakers. So they've really broken down the ground, and that has also helped my industry because this is what it's a more digitalized industry. We use a lot of digital work and all of that than, shooting straight with film. So it has sort of like made the filmmaking process cheaper. Even in Hollywood, I'm sure a lot of studios also want to cut down on the cost of production. And also, I think we also need to somehow cut down on the cost of production because the way the digital world is going, a lot of consumers think they need to consume the films for free because it's digitalized form. They can have easy access to it. Unlike before, a film is shown, you have to stand on the line and go watch it in the cinema. But now I can pick up my mobile phone, I can watch it. So there's another mentality that is going on that we need to sort of like shift to know that the filmmakers go, they raise the money for this film, they go into the creative process to actually create this product, and so the product has to be respected, and they also need to get monies for it. So technology has made filmmaking cheaper, and it's just for us to know how to monetize, to make sure that we get back our monies, for our
just to add to that, to me, I think the biggest thing that technology adds is that it makes your vision bigger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So one is cost, and the second is efficiency, but that I think is the sort of behind the scenes. But the big thing for a movie and for a creative artist is to make your vision bigger. I can't think of a better company that does this very well than Marvel. Mm-hmm. Okay, they've taken comic book characters and now are making multi-billion-dollar movies, and it's not 1 and 2. So there's a reason if you can get $10 billion movies, you're approaching this with a bigger vision. Mm. And I think people should look at technology not only just as an efficiency or a cost saving, but enlarging your vision.
Yeah, and getting access to a lot of people having access to your content.
Ronnie, now in India, there are different numbers floating around, but some people say that there are about 5 million people work behind the camera in the filmmaking. Some people go up to 10 million people working in the industry. There are spot boys to cameramen to everybody. All kind of people are employed. But still, Indian cinema hasn't made a very huge impact on the Indian economy, as you would say Hollywood has. Hollywood probably is fourth or fifth highest exporting product to the American economy. So why is it so, and what do you think we should do to make this industry being able to contribute big, so that even when such events are organized by India and in India, media and entertainment also become an important part, as this has been done in this conference?
I think one big issue is perception. This is such a fragmented industry that we're not come together to really talk about it and get our perception right. And that's why we're always looked at just a frill industry and a peripheral industry. And I think that perception has to change, but it can't change.
But how do we change? That's the question.
And I think for too long, with all due respect for everything else, we've had 1 or 2 or 3 creative people heading the entire perception of trying to project a business environment.
But don't you think it is also the film industry is responsible? Only if you are born in a film family, you will be getting chance. Otherwise, normal people will not get entry into it.
Correct.
You are still, Bollywood is controlled by 4 or 5 A-class actors, male actors. They don't let many boys to come in or even girls to come in.
But that's why you're there, and then hopefully we'll all follow and be people like that, because that's how that will change the entire industry here, Subhash, because frankly, it is about that. So the bad news in this entire thing is that we've got it so focused that we really don't know, that we think it's a long tail, but it could be a really big tail.
Yeah.
And that's what we're leaving on the table. Coming back to, I mean, if you actually, on a more lighter note, if you go to a shooting, you would think there should be no employment problem in India, because I think we're always overstaffed. There are 100 more people on a shoot than I would like to see them, but not taking the employment part. And so that's efficiency of a different nature, which I would like to comment on. But yes, you're right, whether it's 5 or 10 million, indirectly, we can be doing a lot more. I think the question is the per capita part of it. Because if these people, if the talent is not respected, then you're always going to look at it as labor. And if a production person comes into this sector not as a trained individual, but by default as a career path, mainly driven by passion and not qualification, then we're not going to add value. So the question is, it's almost like the education. Why are we not looking at it as a career path? Why do people not look at it? Why are there not courses that actually teach you that? In every large, well-known university in the world, you will have media and entertainment and film as a curriculum with respect, most difficult to get into, but we don't have that here. So I think the second is the aura of respect, qualification, where people can earn 10x of what they're earning right now. It'll be less for more, but you'll create a stature of a very different nature. So I agree, it is a circle, and someone has to break that circle.
We all have to work.
I also feel that stems from the way that India is per se, just to, because what you've said has made me think, because Indians, and especially artists, it's always been passed down from generation to generation. Also, there's some kind of instinctiveness and passion, etc., associated with the arts, which is very important for the arts. But as you say, it has to marry education. And
passion
so
without
it
discipline
needs
useless.
to marry. And somewhere we feel it's mutually exclusive, but it's not. And that needs to go out there, and people need to feel comfortable with that idea.
Yeah, it's like an entrepreneur here saying, I have an idea, and then he pauses, thinking the whole world should be listening to him. And I'm saying, but what's your plan?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's right. Now, how have you ever felt necessity to look at the digital world? Because today, if you look at almost all the artists, all the actors are collaborating with the digital network somewhere or the other. They have signed contracts to make web series and giving them the digital right for making films. So things like that. So have you ever crossed as an actress that maybe this big screen is going to be over, and let me also learn and explore about the 5 inches cinema, which is mobile phone?
So, luckily, at the moment, I've been working, and I have films lined up, so I have been doing that. But this is something that has been every so often a little whisper of something that comes to me, and then I hear about some web series that is being created, etc. And you're right, I have been sent a lot of stuff on web shows, etc. But because it requires a different kind of time frame to do it, I have not been able to do it. But having said that, like I said, for me, there's a clarity in terms of I want to work with certain directors. So if those directors go ahead and make a web series, and if I like the content, I wouldn't think twice about doing it.
Maybe they will never, because
maybe somebody else. I'm not talking about big established A-list. I'm even talking about newer directors. A good director doesn't have to be somebody who's made a 400 crore film. A good director could have made a film on a budget of 2 crores, and it could have made 15, and that, according to me, is a success. Somewhere this media perception of what is successful is also a little skewed. Being an actor, I feel it hugely, because why do you have to make 100 crores for a film to be a success? The public doesn't know that film was made for a certain amount of money, and the return was a certain amount. So that, I'm not even getting into that. It's not about how successful the director is, it's about how how much conviction the director has, how good the director is, and his skill and his ability to bring out a performance out of me. So that is what I'm talking about. And I feel like if I do get something like that, and if I have the space to do it, I will 100% do it, because I'm greedy to act and I'm greedy to do good stuff. And as an actor, I want to be in front of the camera and do different things. And sometimes on cinema, I may not be able to do that, you know, for whatever reason, censorship or whatever. And I can do it on digital content. So of course I'll do it. When the time comes, I'll do it. At the moment, luckily or happily so, I'm very busy doing cinema. And I'm one of those girls who love cinema as like that theater watching cinema experience. So I believe that magic will never fade. For me, it is the magic faraway tree. It's like an enchanted forest which will stay forever, regardless of anything.
We're praying.
Well, that is because of, you know, the cinema is a very hot medium, because when you watch cinema in the theater, you are larger than the life size. And lights are off, you have no distraction, and you are kind of totally...
It's magic.
You are immersed into it.
Yes.
But then the digital is the cold medium. Now you see on your television screen, you are 5 feet girl, but you look at 5 inches, not even 5 inches tall.
So the big question
it's a cold medium.
But the big question for all talent that we'll all have to face is, do you want more people to watch your movie, or do you want people to watch it in a movie theater? And over a period of time, let's face it, 7 to 8 out of the 10 people that will finally watch your movie will not be watching it.
They're watching it on
and I think, well, we have to face the reality of what is happening with cinema. For my industry, we didn't have a lot of cinema. The cinema is, you know, just starting up. That, and then, well, the digital world is also starting up, because the digital gives you the freedom to watch the movies whenever you want to watch it, however you want to watch it, you know. So there's still going to be this different group of people.
And the point is, your movies may not travel, it will push theatrical, but with these platforms,
everyone can watch it from anywhere.
There's no boundary.
When you start getting WhatsApps from countries that you've not heard of,
and you're
like, know the power
of the media.
No, absolutely.
But, you know, but also in Nollywood, the cinema culture still has its space, because people still somehow will still want to experience that, but it's also shifting, you know, very rapidly. I mean, you have the Netflix, you have, you know, all these things. So I think the cinema is still dicey, because it's, you know, it gives you this way. You maybe want to take your girlfriend out, your family out. You want to have that outdoor experience. And then there's other people who want to just sit at home, have a nice meal, get your friends, get a big TV, and you know, you watch it at your own time, however you want it. So
both are very important.
Well, they are important, but the technology is sweeping things in such a fast speed that we as filmmakers is somehow we can't resist it. It's just to sort of like embrace it and make sure, like I said, content is king. So however, if your content is premium, however you create your content, some people might watch it in cinema, you also need to put it out there. So it's not about maybe resisting it. I don't care whether you see it in cinema, you know, or see it in digital. It's just embracing the whole aspect of how people, because you find that people are watching, your audience, the way they watch things have changed. Do you understand? So the patterns have changed. People are so busy, they might just want to get the information, and the information is moving at the speed of light. Their attention span is so short that you need to get that attention. You know, with the social media news here, the people are distracted. Unlike before, when we were growing up, everybody was watching the same experience. You know, like in Nigeria, if I was at 4 o'clock, we'll sit in front of the TV, everybody in Nigeria is watching the same thing. But now I can go on YouTube, I can be watching Netflix, I can be watching the cable network, I can be watching, you know, so people are having different experiences. So we as filmmakers just need to open ourselves up to sort of like embrace all these new things that are coming in, and so that we don't lose out. Yeah, I think so.
Stephanie, in your part of the world, let me back. What is the entrepreneur? An entrepreneur is who is not just building a business, but who is also accomplishing their desire and achieve their ideas, convert the ideas into achievements.
Yes.
And in the world, there are investment bankers, there are angel investors, there are people to fund your ideas. But how about as a filmmaker, are you able to get funding for your filmmaking as in that part of the world?
No, it's actually very difficult to get funding, especially in the entertainment space. Just like you're saying about the packaging and the perception of how the government sees the entertainment industry, well, ours, they've not, we are sort of like the second largest employers of labor because, it's a big industry. But we still have not been able, we're still in the process of trying to convince the government that this is a viable industry that you need to invest in because it caters both for the skilled and you're skilled, the able and the unable. So it's been, the government has never funded the movie industry. It was just individuals who had companies, businesses who put in money to fund this project, or maybe family and friends. But recently, like 2 years ago, it was the first time that the government put in a fund, a 3 billion naira fund, to sort of like help in the industry. First ever, that we had that experience. And then they were able to set up this institution called BOI, the industry to, sort of like specialize, look into the industry and find out how they can package the loans and whatever, how to, to assist, because the commercial banks, they still don't understand us, so they find it difficult of how are we going to get the numbers, how are we going to get our monies back, our investment. So it's been quite challenging.
It's a struggle.
Yeah, it's a struggle, yeah. But, but we keep pushing because we're also trying to push that, at least for the commercial bank, if they can have a sector, an entertainment desk that understand how entertainment works, because it's a different dynamics actually. It's not 1 + 1 + 2 + 3. You understand? There's a whole lot of dynamics to it, and with those conversations are happening, and we're also happy that this particular bank of industry is also helping to facilitate and give loans to cinema builders and distribution.
We had similar thing, but I think 10, 15 years, 20 years back, it got broken. Now the funding is available for cinema. I remember when beginning, Ronnie and we were working together, when I went to my banker for starting television, so and I wanted to have some financing. My banker, I've been banking with State Bank for the last 40 years. 40 years before this incident, 25 years. So he told me, Subhash, this video cassette, you are asking me to finance 2 lakh of rupees, 200,000 rupees, but my servant brings this cassette from the video library in 5 rupees. So how do I believe that this is 200,000 worth 200,000 rupees? So that was the time we have seen. But since then, Indian banks and institutions have been funding the filmmaking. Okay. So that way we have been better than this. Ronnie, I've always wondered a question that does a movie run only because of a superstar, or do you think it works because of the script? Do you think if we make a very good script with wonderful stars and big budget, will it be a blockbuster? On what basis do you as a producer decide? Because always you have a risk, you have money at stake, you raise funding, you want to return that money also, or you want your money to make money. Yeah. So how do you really go about this dilemma to resolve?
Yeah, I think my dilemma gets solved because my sense is, if there's a really good script and a story, I should give it its best chance for huge success by then casting it up. But if I'm starting to look at an average script and I'm more enamored because I cast the film, it's a recipe for disaster. It may not always be, because there will always be some satellite television channel that might bail me out.
So we are your bailing out.
Yeah, but no, I'm just saying, but jokes apart, I think the way to approach that dilemma is you have to focus on the script and the storytelling. And audiences today have evolved. Yeah. Footfalls overall have remained flat in India for the longest period of time. So what has happened is that people who are going to the movies 12 times a year are now going 4 times a year. That's why the footfalls are flat. The day that stops, it'll start reducing. And the only reason is they're being circumspect. And the only reason they're being circumspect is because of storytelling. So I think every movie needs a chance. I'm not against casting and star cast, but take a base and then cast it up, and don't rely on the cast and then figure out the base.
Yeah,
that's never
But
good.
it's always the other way around in the Bollywood. People first sign up the stars and then they go to
But
script
Rajiv, you've
writers.
seen this over the last 2 years. That track record is not holding up.
Yeah, because somewhere it's not just that star that made that film work. It's the entire team that made that film work.
Yeah.
And that really...
If you look at the list in 2017...
Not necessarily everybody believes in the filmmaking. Everyone believes that it's because of me the film
Yeah, but
Yeah.
No, but
that's
but
changing.
just to say that I think a lot of stars, you know, I think being one from, you're looking out for good script, good story. Story is the main thing, and that is maybe what has also helped my industry is the story. Story is, you know, story is still king, you know, because sometimes how do new actors break out?
Yeah.
Do you understand? You can see someone who is new, you don't know the person, and they have this fantastic story, and they really bring it to life. You know, they become a star. So I don't think it's a combination. Whether you're using the star or a startup, the main thing is that have good story. You know, and you as a big star, you don't want to do something that is, you know, not really nice. You're looking for a story that will challenge you more and bring out the best in you. That's what I think. So story is definitely.
No, but very often an actor also makes a decision saying, oh, the producer is good, oh, this project is good, the director is good, I'll do it, they're paying me so much money. But then that star hasn't come in with the conviction to play that part.
So it's
And
economical
I think that's
then.
also, no, what I'm saying is that there's also a right reason for that actor to do that film and for the producer to believe that that actor is the right, that star is the right choice.
Fits in the character.
Because casting wise and in terms of conviction, because then even that creates a, you know, it starts off really good on paper, everything is right, and then it's just kaput because somewhere there was not that equal level of conviction, and filmmaking is so fragile in that, like whatever I've seen recently, everything matters, and it's so easy for an audience to go into a theater and in 10 minutes say this is crap, which doesn't happen on digital because you just give it more
Well, that's
time.
the honeymoon period, because now on the trailer they're going to decide whether
That's true,
Yeah, on the trailer, yes.
Yes.
And now they know they've changed the
How
style.
good the
They're now doing
trailer
like
is.
6 trailers. So the films, there's a new type. So you do the first trailer, you don't cut, you do the second
nobody's got
trailer,
time
you
for
do
the first 10 minutes. Anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, Aditi, I have a question. This country, this land follows somewhere it is imbibed in our ecosystem, in our psyche, that you do your work with honesty and sincerity. And let's results, let's leave to some nature or something. Now,
Karma.
Theory of karma.
Yeah.
So, but there are, you see sometimes that people are crazy for cinema, more so in South India.
Yeah.
Now, there were times when people would go to theater to watch a movie and they would get disappointed when they see house full and the ticket will be sold at premium or a black market. That would make you happy? Or today, a good movie, when it comes, first day itself on online, 1 million tickets are sold.
Ooh.
So, what is the kind of, does it make any difference to your life when this kind of thing happen or doesn't happen?
I actually didn't understand. So, sorry, it was not karma, it's actually the Gita, right? That says, do your work and then let it all, whatever.
Yes.
So, I didn't understand what the question was. Would I
Now,
prefer to see a houseful sign, or would I prefer to see online tickets sold? Is that such a question?
There are two questions.
Sorry.
One is that if your movie doesn't work
Right.
at box office,
Right.
but you have done your job very well, sincerely and honestly, will that make you sad or you will say no?
Okay, got it.
That's one question.
Okay.
The second is that today's world, is it better for you as an actor when 1 million tickets are sold first day itself online?
Okay, got it.
And over the time when you would get a very psychological kick when the film theater puts house full and tickets are sold in black, will that make you happier?
So, of course, it is great if online all tickets are sold.
Yeah.
And when you see the houseful signs outside the theaters, it's amazing. I remember a film I did recently, it was Manisha's film. The entire weekend was sold out in advance, many weeks in advance. And obviously it makes you really happy and it's very exciting. But somewhere I know it's not because of me per se, it's because of the team and it's because of a director, and it's about some anticipation. So leaving that aside, I love that million tickets sold, houseful signs. Of course, I'm an actor. I love all this. I love praise. I love to be appreciated. I love to be pampered. I love to be all that, all of the above. But having said that, I do believe, okay, so now there's this thing of the Gita that do your best and then leave the rest to the universe to figure out. But I somewhere believe in that the only control you have is yourself. Is that you can put in your 200 and whatever, 88% or whatever, 1000%, beyond, and you can also charge the people around you. Like you can influence them. You can sort of make everybody around you also work the way that you like to work and encourage them, etc. Whether it's your own team, whether it's the unit, whether it's the ADs around you, the stylists, the whatever. And a director usually does that on set, and an actor does that with their own team and with the others on set. And I believe that that is what you can do. And you put in every effort into every line, every expression, every scene, that is your job. After that, the film does have its own fate, because now it will release on a Friday on the day that it rained the whole day. Now what do? People are not going to go to the theatre. But that doesn't mean the film is bad. So for me, if a film is bad, I'm very honest to myself. I will say, yes, it went wrong. But if the film is good, I will hold my ground and say that this film is good. It may not have made the amount of money that it should have, or it may not have made 200 crores. But if it was made on a budget of 20 and it made 60, I believe it did well. Even if it didn't make that 60, if it's a good film, for whatever reason people didn't go and see it, it's still a good film. It will live beyond my years. It will live beyond the director's years. It will be watched on whatever, all the digital mediums, and people will at some point catch up and watch those films, and it will go down in cinematic history. And that is so for a lot of black and white films that I didn't grow up watching, but I know like Guru Dutt's films, etc. They were not celebrated during his time, but today they are legendary films. So I believe that cinema has that kind of lasting power, or whatever, this medium has this kind of lasting power. So even if that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which in India is so important now, it doesn't happen, I'm proud if I'm a part of a good film, and if I've done my best in a good film. So it's a combination of the two. I love those houseful films.
Contrarian view on that.
Yeah, why not? That's a good idea.
We're in an entrepreneur conference, so I don't want everyone walking away with the wrong thing. That would make this the only sector and industry where there's so many excuses, because at the end of the day, if I'm an entrepreneur, I may have the best tech platform, but if my product didn't sell and I'm bankrupt, that's it. It's a binary outcome. Yeah. So at the end of the day, this is also an industry where we need to accept binary outcomes. I'm not arguing with you, because I understand what you're saying. Yeah. But I think it's just something that we all need to mature and learn up to. That just because it's a creative sector, it doesn't mean technology is not a creative sector. And medtech, people innovating in medicine today, there's also a binary output in that context. But I think here we're a lot more tolerant of the factors what we perceive are outside our control. Which
but tell me, I have seen in Bollywood particularly, because I'm perceived to be as an outsider who is funding everybody through buying satellite rights and all. So when a film is being released of Ronnie Screwvala, then every other producer wants that film to fail. Why is this so? Really, I've seen it. I've been sitting with some of the producers. I say, oh, that movie is released. How is it? No, nothing. There is nothing in this film. So
because we're not cohesive as an
I may not be qualified to answer that.
Maybe it's a competition.
It was what you said earlier. As an industry, we're not cohesive.
But you see,
anyway, let's have the audience ask some questions.
Okay.
Oh, wow, very good.
Okay, some quick mics, I think.
We release all the mics. Will you please behind also?
Yeah, go ahead.
Good. Yes. Oh, thank you. This is my first moderation in my life. Thank you.
Ronnie, I want you to be extremely honest about a twofold question I have.
Yeah, the mic's not working, but yeah. He wants me to be extremely honest about something.
Professor, I don't think I need it. Anyway, the question, I have a twofold question, and I'll try to wrap it up as soon as possible. Who would have thought on July 9th, 2015, that a regional cinema like Bahubali would end up being one of India's biggest blockbusters? Bollywood, let's accept the fact, is facing an onslaught from multiple factors, right? Technology, digital platforms. My son, who's 8, I was not introduced to laptop till I was 19, 20 years. My son at 6 dexterously uses iPad. Yeah. So they have more opportunities for entertainment than a typical cinema. And the second problem that we face is you go to a movie with a family, it costs you 6,000-7,000 rupees. Popcorn 400.
So what is your question?
So number one is that. Number one is how do you think an industry like Bollywood can reinvent itself to be relevant in the present scenario?
Southern cinema and various other things.
Second question, which is very important, sir, is I believe outsiders like me believe that it's a great world, it's a tinsel world, it's a uber glamorous world. Do you also go through bouts of insecurity and depression when your film fails? I want an honest answer because,
Thank you.
See, I think the first one...
Take the mic, please.
Yeah, to your first question, I think it is absolutely fantastic that and I don't see it as a South Indian movie, I see it as an Indian movie, because the story quintessentially is set on our Ramayana and Mahabharata in some way, and therefore has an absolutely national and universal appeal. The smart thing that the people did is pre-plan it. They were mature about the size and understanding what that is. They didn't go and start making language dubs. They actually got celebrities in the various languages to come and host their film and present it. So there's absolutely no reason why you would not do that. And I think that is the thinking that needs to broaden up. That is the thinking I think we've been talking about for the last half an hour here, that are we being too myopic? And the answer is yes, we're being myopic. So this is not a threat. This is actually a massive opportunity. And that's how I would look at it. Your second question on insecurity, I didn't quite get. What is your insecurity?
Have you got depression or sometime when your movie failed?
No, I strongly believe that all glory is fleeting.
He has somebody else here who bankrolls him, don't you?
I see, right.
Yeah, come. Yes. And the girl behind also. Okay.
Namaste, Subhash ji. I've grown up, there was only two worlds in the beginning, Doordarshan or Z Network, so thanks for making our lives more easy, connected to more media. And it's great to be talking to all of you. My question is, it started with myself being with some of our creative folks. We came up with this movie, Mojo, and we released all over Karnataka and a few parts outside Karnataka. And we won 8 international film recognitions as well. We've crossed 38 days, but it's getting only difficult for us to continue in theaters. And this is not just my story. When we talk to a lot of movie makers, getting theaters, especially regional movies, and taking to dubbing to different languages, to different channels, different networks, it has its own process.
You are producing in Kannada?
I have already done that. I have already done that. I'm a producer of a movie. I'm a marketing.
So what is your problem? Not getting theaters?
Yes, sir. So there is a very big competition to just retain one show in theaters, and taking to different languages is another milestone by itself. And it's a lot of influences. There is no standard set in terms of either how do I continue in theaters, how do I take it to different channels, TV or the VODs. Now, although it has received very well.
What is your question?
So there is, are there any means to get some standard information, or is there any process set up between the board that controls the media, that controls the films, as well as the theaters and the businesses involved?
So you are suggesting some solution.
I'm asking both, sir. Do you have already something in set for?
Very often theaters are not in the south. This tends to happen. There are a lot of theaters are taken up, and movies don't get a release in a
theater. To be honest, every product has its shelf life.
Yeah.
You go to a big bazaar, and if you have a noodles that is not going to stay on the shelf, it's going to be taken off if you don't have sales. So I think you need to be clear. This is a competitive world. I'm being practical.
Right.
And therefore, you have other mediums like television and all the other windows afterwards where your movie will be seen.
You can put on YouTube, you give to television channel, you can dub it, you can, I mean, there are many ways today.
In fact, abroad, people make films just for Netflix and Amazon and they are really amazing films.
That is right. I mean, now I think we will definitely get to YouTube.
If you have other questions, we can take offline.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Hi.
Yes.
My name is Carla, and I'm actually from Peru in South America. So I need to explain you a little bit. I grew up watching Hollywood and Bollywood. So there are a lot of fans of Bollywood in South America. So right now, Hollywood is going through this moment where they are realizing that we need more than beautiful women. We need a strong woman. We need different roles, but we also need different people. And there is one thing I realized when I watch Bollywood. Women are always sexy. There is no space for intelligent women, very little space. And third, most of the Bollywood actors are light-skinned. And I'm calling this out because this is racism. So I want to ask you, especially to the ones in Bollywood, how do you see that the trend that is happening in Hollywood of realizing that I need something else than a half-naked woman in my screen? And I also need people who are Latinos, who are black, who are Asian. The same here in Bollywood. How do you see this new trend? How long is it going to take for that to reach here? That people stop telling you, I'm not sure about the movie because it's female-oriented. What is female-oriented? Yeah. I want to see those new trends, and I'm actually calling people out, and you have power there. And I want to ask you, what are you going to do to actually make a real change? Because I'm sorry, but I'm tired of the beautiful girl that only likes beautiful things.
Yeah.
I want something different.
Okay. So as far as I can say that's a good question. The Bollywood have certainly given some movies which are showing the women in a very different, in an intelligent fashion or intelligent way, and some of the movies are now under production. I can't speak for Hollywood, but you are right. If this is a trend which, if as a producer, if we get, I think we may be surprised by audience responses. Like we have seen in that question itself, the audience here have applauded that question. Thanks for giving that good way.
I do want to say something. You know, what you're saying actually is very correct, because the fact that, you know, people say, okay, this is an intelligent role. That's what I mean by when you say heroine-oriented, this is an intelligent role. I don't think that we should even make, I mean, surely all girls have a brain and they have a viewpoint and they are intelligent, and we don't need to make a point of it. But yeah, that is slowly coming into cinema where girls are actually working. Their only aim is not to fall in love and, you know, then marry. So there are careers now, at least in the films that I have done. The girls have had careers, they are working people, they have had a mind of their own, etc. So I think those are not mutually exclusive anymore. Also the thing of this whole thing of being light-skinned, etc. You know, honestly, I face reverse racism on this, because quite often when people come in from the outside to cast an Indian girl, I get rejected because I'm light-skinned. Yeah. And my country is not only about dusky-skinned people. We are a country, we are a very diverse country of different skin colors, of different kinds of looking people. You're right, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, and I'm with you completely. But what I'm trying to tell you is that it is changing, it takes time to change, and honestly, we girls have to stand up for the change. So we have to, I mean, recently, in fact, there was a magazine cover which was about different diverse beauties. And there were 3 girls on that cover. And one of them was me, and the other one were newer people, or they were not, whatever, they was whatever. And I was told, why are you doing it with 2 other girls? And I said, no, because I want to. I want to be there with those other girls and say, this is India, and these are the different kinds of people in India, and we are all beautiful in our own way. But it takes it's one step at a time.
But like, just to add to what she's saying, you have the power here. They have the power to change the narrative. You as a producer, you as a writer, you have the power to say, let me show diversity in India, giving everybody equal opportunity. So what we're saying here, I think, is a food for thought for you to go in. And that's what I'm saying.
That's what I said.
So which is a good for thought to go in. And
we all have to make that change. Every single one of us.
Also, by the way, if you're Hispanic, we have launched in Hispanic our ZTV. You can watch in Bollywood cinema in Hispanic. Yes, any more questions, please?
Okay, more.
Oh, lots of questions.
Okay. So I'm a 15-year-old budding entrepreneur from California, and I have a question for the two women sitting up there. So recently there have been a lot of revelations of the accusations and allegations in the workplace, especially in cinema. So I ask you both, have you ever really dealt with the inherent sexism that exists in the workplace? And if so, what have you done to combat it? The topic of this conference being women empowerment.
Okay, now you're laughing.
Yeah.
Well, when you say sexism, because the recent one is the sexual assault that is going on, so do you want to talk about, and all of that? For me personally, I'm going to talk about my own personal experience. I have not found myself in that situation where I was sexually assaulted, or I did not put myself in a position where I have to offer sex for any role or anything. So I think the question what I tell young ladies is, in the entertainment industry, it's good for you to be determined, but not be desperate, because desperation leads to manipulation. So I grew up, I go for I have been lucky in my career because I go for the audition, I usually get the roles. So I grew up in the sense of, because I remember when I was in university, a lecturer was trying to make me, chase me, and I changed my course to another thing. I just didn't have time for that. So because I knew in my mind, if I want to date you, let it be that I'm dating you. But if you want to say before I have to get here, I have to do this, I do not believe in that theory. And I am someone that said, if this opportunity, if I have to do this together, I'm going to wait for the right opportunity where I am going to present my talent as it is. That has really worked for me. But regardless, there's been a lot of people, because, we understand that people have different backgrounds, different, families, they've seen different things. So you can't really judge from your own personal experience, because some people don't really have the willpower to resist. Some people are intimidated. I've been in a situation where they could intimidate you. So some people don't really have that willpower to navigate themselves out of the situation. So the thing we need to do is to start telling the girls the tools to use. Make sure you don't put yourself in a harm's way. Make sure you're not too desperate for something oh, if I don't get it now, I can't get it another time. And trying to create that enabling environment. And that's why we're having this conference, for women to have more enabling environment so that they are not subjected to things that, at the end of the day, they'll feel that there's no other way out. Some people say this is the way that we do it. I have never had that experience. And also, as a female a director and a producer, how I've also functioned is I look at, do I have a talent for the things that I do? If I have the talent, I go ahead and do it. And when people see that, because that's what happened in my industry when I directed my first film, a lot of other actresses oh my God, Stephanie did it, I am going to produce. Stephanie was the director, I am going to do that. So that kind of encouraged a lot of people to say that they can actually do it. So, and we need to make sure that we don't find ourselves.
Running out of time now. You want to comment, Aditi?
I want to say something that when you're very sure of what you want to do and you have conviction, I don't think anybody can mess with that. Yes, at the beginning it is a little tough, and honestly, sexism is something that you deal with every day, with the watchman, with the whoever, with your driver, sometimes with, everybody, and it's in every industry. And yes, it's up to us to stand up to it and say, no, I will not take this. Having said that, what you are talking about, I'm sure it happens. And now again, I will say this, and I make it a point to say this whenever I'm, you're asked this question so often, what would you like to tell other people who want to be actors? And I always say this one thing, is that you can do it your way. The way that you think makes you happy, and the way that you want to do it, you can do it that way. It just takes a little more courage, a little more conviction, not a little more, a lot more courage, a lot more conviction, because It's happened to me once, though I have been fairly protected in the industry, I don't know how. But I have had very, very good people pick me for their films, and I've always been very protected by them. But once I did land myself in a situation where I was posed this question. I actually got thrown out. I had a 3-film deal and I got thrown out of it. I did one and the other 2 I didn't do. But it was a choice that I made, and I feel that if you can stand there and say, I made this choice, and it is true, those 10 people or 15 people who work in this way will never pick me, and they never have. It's fine. You'll not get work for 6 months, but after that, the people who believe in your talent, who love you for who you are and what you bring to the table, they will come to you. And you can work on your own terms. It's longer, it's tougher, it's more uphill, but it can happen. And you're happy and you sleep well at the end of the day.
Can we have one last question? Because we have already ran out of time. Our time is finished. The watch is telling us. So just one question and then we will...
Hi, my name is Anisha. I'm a YouTube creator, amazing panel. And my question is to all of you, I think, which is that being in a digital era today, and you see there's people are just, as you were saying, consuming everything on mobile phones. So being a YouTube creator, do you think there's ever a way that a YouTube creator can ever have a crossover to traditional cinema? Or do you rather would suggest as being a YouTube creator, focus on YouTube because that's the place to be? Like that's just a general question.
There are no barrier today. You want to cross over from YouTube to cinema, you can do so. From cinema to YouTube, it's a free word, Eddie. There's no longer any barriers. That's the beauty of digital world. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. With that, I would like to end this session. And thanks my panelists, Ronnie, Stephanie, and Aditi for coming and joining this session. Thank you very much.